I had always believed in grand gestures and surprises to keep the spark alive in our marriage. So, on a seemingly ordinary Wednesday, I decided to surprise my wife, Jenna, with a bouquet of her favorite flowers, stargazer lilies, accompanied by a playful note signed "From your boy." It was a little inside joke between us, reminiscent of our early dating days when we'd sneak notes to each other under that moniker. I ordered the flowers online, ensuring they'd arrive by noon while I was still at work, imagining how the surprise would light up her face, the same way it did when I proposed. The moment the delivery was confirmed via a text, my anticipation grew. I couldn't wait to hear her excited voice over the phone. Instead, when I called her, the tone of her voice didn't carry the thrill I was expecting. There was a hesitation, a shadow in her usually bright demeanor. "Hey, babe, did you get a little something at the door today?" I asked, trying to tease out her excitement. "Oh, yes. The flowers are beautiful," Jenna responded, her voice flat, almost distracted. "And the note?" I prodded with a chuckle, expecting her to play along. "There was a note," she faltered slightly. "Oh, yes, it was nice. Just from a friend congratulating me on the new project at work." "A friend?" My brow furrowed in confusion. Why would she lie? I decided to play dumb to gather more information. "That's strange. Wasn't it signed 'From your boy'?" There was a pause, a moment of utter silence that felt like an eternity. Then, a soft, nervous laugh. "Oh, right. How silly of me. Yes, it was cute. Thank you, honey." The conversation quickly shifted to mundane updates about our day, but my mind was stuck on her initial reaction. It nagged at me, an itch I couldn't reach. Why did she hide the note? Who did she think it was from? Determined to understand what was happening, I left work early, driving home with a mix of dread and adrenaline pumping through my veins. As I approached our house, I noticed another car parked across the street, one I didn't recognize, a sleek, black sedan that looked out of place in our suburban haven. Inside, I found Jenna in the kitchen, her back to me, phone in hand. She was laughing softly, a sound I usually adored, now tainted with suspicion. "Who's making you laugh like that?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. She jumped slightly, fumbling her phone as she turned to face me. "Oh, it's just Melissa, work stuff." But it was too late. I had seen the name on the screen, David. Not Melissa. "Jenna, we need to talk," I said firmly, my heart pounding against my ribcage. Her face paled, eyes widening as if she realized she was caught. The confrontation was brief but intense. Tears, apologies, and confession spilled forth. David was more than a co-worker, he was the lover who thought the bouquet was from him. I felt as if the ground beneath me had shifted, the betrayal slicing through the trust and love I had for her. In that moment, my decision was clear. I couldn't stay, not with the shadow of her deceit between us. "Pack your things," I said, voice cold, devoid of the warmth I once felt. It's over." Jenna's protests and pleads echoed as I walked away, the final image of her tear-stained face burning in my memory. The love I had was replaced by a hollow void, filled only by the echo of her betrayal. That night, the house felt emptier, the silence louder, and my resolve stronger. I would move on, but first, I would ensure that the deception didn't go unpunished. Revenge, as they say, is a dish best served cold, and I had just started cooking mine. The next morning greeted me with a relentless brightness that seemed at odds with the turmoil churning inside me. As I sat at the kitchen table, the silence was a stark reminder of Jenna's absence. Her things were gone, taken last night in a flurry of tears and pleading words that fell on deaf ears. Now, it was just me, plotting my next move over a cup of coffee that tasted more bitter than usual. I needed to know more about David, the man who had intruded into my life, stealing the sanctity of my marriage. I decided that understanding my enemy was crucial to exacting a fitting revenge. Pulling out my laptop, I began my search. Social media, business networks, anywhere David's digital footprint might lead. It didn't take long. His profiles were public, filled with posts that displayed a life of arrogance and overconfidence. I noted his frequented places, his likes, the veneer of a man who felt untouchable. My phone buzzed, a message from a mutual friend, Rick, asking if I was okay. Inspiration struck. Rick was the gregarious type, connected and well-liked, often organizing gatherings. If anyone could get me close to David without arousing suspicion, it was him. I called him, keeping my voice steady. Rick, I need a favor. Can you arrange a get-together? Somewhere public, with a lot of our mutual friends, and make sure David is there. Sure, man, but are you sure you want to see him right now? Rick's concern was palpable even through the phone. I have to face this sooner or later. Better to rip off the Band-Aid, right? I masked my true intentions with a chuckle. All right, I'll set something up for this weekend. A barbecue at my place. Keep it casual, Rick replied, buying into my facade of seeking closure. Perfect, thanks, Rick. I'll owe you one. As the call ended, a plan began to take shape. I would confront David, but not with violence. No, I needed something more insidious, something that would hit him where it hurt most. The rest of the week crawled by, each day a meticulous preparation for the confrontation. I practiced my words, each sentence laced with the venom of betrayal. I gathered evidence of Jenna and David's affair, screenshots of their messages accidentally sent to my phone, and photos from a private investigator I had hired in the first flush of my suspicion. Saturday arrived, cloaked in the smoky scent of barbecue and the murmur of unsuspecting guests. I arrived early, helping Rick set up, all the while keeping an eye out for David. He arrived, all charm and smiles, unaware of the storm brewing. As he approached to greet me, his hand extended in feigned solidarity, I met his gaze, my hand clasping his with deceptive warmth. David, can we talk? In private, I said, my voice low. He hesitated, a flicker of suspicion crossing his features, but curiosity won out. Sure, let's step over here. We moved away from the crowd, the noise of laughter and chatter fading behind us. I know about you and Jenna, I started, watching his face closely. His expression changed from confusion to shock and then to a guarded neutrality. Look, it's not what you. Save it. I've seen the messages, David. I know everything. I cut him off, my tone harsh. My phone was in my hand now, displaying the damning evidence. David's eyes flickered to the screen, then back to my face. What do you want? I want you to know that I'm not just going to walk away from this. I'm going to make sure everyone knows what kind of man you are. Starting with your boss, your family, your friends, everyone. His face paled, the implications of my words sinking in. You wouldn't. Oh, but I would. And I will, unless you do exactly as I say. The hook was set, and as I outlined the terms of his punishment, David's posture deflated, his earlier confidence melting away under the weight of impending humiliation. As I walked away, leaving David to stew in his own dread, a cold satisfaction settled over me. The first blow had been struck, but this was just the beginning. I was not done yet, not until I had broken him as thoroughly as he had broken me. The satisfaction from the confrontation at the barbecue lingered like the aftertaste of a strong coffee, bitter yet invigorating. My drive home was filled with a mix of triumphant energy and a relentless determination to continue my strategy of retribution against David. The next phase was crucial, and it required precision and a deeper dive into the deceit that had upended my life. The morning was bright, a stark contrast to the dark plans forming in my mind. I sat at my desk, surrounded by notes and digital evidence of Jenna and David's affair. My first move had shaken David, but to truly make an impact, I needed to escalate. I opened my laptop and began drafting an email, not to David, but to his employer. As I typed, each word was calculated to inflict maximum damage without crossing into illegality. I attached proof of David's indiscretions, ensuring that his professional life would be as disrupted as my personal one had been. Just before I hit send, my phone rang. It was Jenna. Why are you doing this? What are you trying to achieve? Her voice was a cocktail of anger, desperation, and confusion. "This is about fairness, Jenna. You and David disrupted my life. Now, I'm simply returning the favor," I replied, my voice cold and detached. "You're going too far. This won't bring us back together. That's not my goal anymore, Jenna. My goal is to make sure neither of you forgets the consequences of your actions." With that, I ended the call and sent the email. The immediate aftermath was explosive. David's employer responded swiftly, promising a thorough investigation. Rumors began to swirl, and David's pristine reputation started to crumble. His social media profiles went dark, a sign that the pressure was mounting. Feeling the momentum, I turned my attention to the social aspect of David's life. Using anonymous posts and some of the less incriminating evidence, I began to seed doubt and suspicion among his friends and colleagues. It was a slow poison, one that would erode his support system and leave him isolated. Meanwhile, I kept a close eye on Jenna through mutual friends who were still in touch with her. They reported her growing distress, her regret becoming more palpable with each passing day. She tried to reach out several times, but I was steadfast, refusing to engage. My focus was solely on David now. As the days passed, David's attempts to reach me became more desperate. He called, emailed, even showed up at my house one evening, pleading for me to stop the onslaught. I watched from the window as he stood at the door, a broken man. "I know I messed up, but you've got to stop this. You're destroying everything I have," he shouted from the porch, his voice carrying a mix of anger and plea. I stepped outside, facing him with a calm that belied the storm inside. "You thought you could just step into my life, take what you wanted, and not face any consequences. You were wrong, David." He looked defeated, his shoulders slumping as he turned away without another word. As he disappeared into the night, a hollow victory settled in my chest. This was retribution, yes, but it was also a stark reminder of everything that had been lost. The joy of victory was tainted by the ruins of relationships and the loneliness that echoed through my now quiet house. Yet, there was no turning back. I had set this path, driven by a need for justice, or perhaps vengeance. The line had blurred, but one thing was clear: I would see this through to the end, no matter the cost. The game was far from over, and I was already planning my next move. The days stretched into weeks, and David's life unraveled faster than I had anticipated. His career was in shambles. The anonymous email I sent to his employer, complete with evidence of his infidelity, had not only led to his suspension but a full-blown internal investigation. His wife, unaware of his double life, was now demanding a divorce. He was losing everything. But despite the ruin I had caused, I wasn't satisfied. Something in me still burned for more closure, more justice, more revenge. Jenna had been too quiet, hiding behind the fallout, while David bore the brunt of my wrath. She needed to feel the pain as well. It was time for the final act, something that would destroy them both in ways they couldn't recover from. One night, as I sat in the dark living room, I came up with a plan, insidious, ruthless, and designed to hit them both where it hurt most. It would be brutal, but by the end of it, they would feel the full weight of their betrayal. I knew from mutual friends that Jenna had been trying to move on. She was attending social gatherings again, and I heard whispers about how she was planning to rekindle her relationship with David now that his wife had left him. It was ironic, after everything, they still thought they could find solace in each other. That only fueled my resolve. I had been biding my time, quietly gathering more information. David and Jenna had continued their affair in secret, thinking they were safe now that my initial wave of revenge had subsided. They had no idea what was coming. I waited until they were together again, meeting up at a fancy restaurant downtown. My private investigator confirmed the reservation. It was perfect, public enough for them to feel confident that nothing could go wrong, but isolated enough for what I had planned. I knew their weaknesses now, how to hit them in ways they wouldn't see coming. The evening arrived, and I positioned myself near the restaurant, wearing a cap pulled low and a nondescript jacket. I wasn't there to confront them in person, that would be too obvious. No, I had something far more subtle, more devastating planned. I'd hacked into David's phone the week before. It wasn't difficult, he wasn't exactly tech-savvy, and his password habits were predictable. Tonight, I would use that access to destroy what little they had left. From my car, I triggered a message to David's wife, posing as him. It was a detailed, vile confession about the affair, describing how he had planned to run off with Jenna, how he had stolen from their joint bank accounts to fund their illicit meetings. I attached intimate photos that I had intercepted from their messages and sent them to both her and Jenna's closest family members. Within minutes, my phone buzzed as the fallout began. I saw David's phone light up inside the restaurant, his face growing pale as he read the incoming messages. Jenna's reaction followed shortly, her expression turning from confusion to horror as she, too, received the incriminating evidence. She looked at David in shock, her hands trembling as she realized their secret was out. The confrontation between them was immediate. I couldn't hear the words from where I was sitting, but I saw the heated gestures, the furious exchange of blame. David tried to explain himself, but Jenna wasn't having it. She stood up from the table, knocking her wine glass to the floor, drawing the attention of other diners. She stormed out of the restaurant, and David followed her, panic in his eyes. I watched them from the shadows as they stepped outside, arguing violently on the sidewalk. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I stepped out of my car, walking toward them slowly, savoring the tension in the air. Jenna noticed me first. Her eyes widened in recognition, but there was no relief. She knew why I was there. "You," she spat, her voice shaking with fury. "This is all you're doing." I smiled coldly. "It had to end this way, Jenna. You both made your choices." David turned to face me, his face red with anger. "What the hell do you want? Haven't you done enough?" Thing far more subtle, more standing inches from him. "No, David. Not yet." Without warning, I lunged at him, my fist connecting with his jaw in a powerful strike. He staggered back, clutching his face in shock. Jenna screamed, stepping between us, but I wasn't done. I grabbed David by the collar and slammed him against the side of a parked car, his face inches from mine. "You ruined my life," I hissed, my voice low but filled with venom. "And now, I've ruined yours. But I'm not here for an apology. I'm here to make sure you understand that this is your legacy. You'll never escape this." David, gasping for breath, struggled to push me off, but I held him there, the rage boiling over. Jenna grabbed my arm, trying to pull me away, but I shook her off. "You deserve each other," I growled, finally releasing my grip. David collapsed to the ground, coughing and sputtering. Jenna stood frozen, tears streaming down her face, her voice trembling as she spoke. "I loved you once, but now I hate you." I met her gaze, my eyes cold and unfeeling. "The feeling's mutual. Goodbye, Jenna." I turned and walked away, leaving them both broken, their lives in ruins. There would be no recovery from this. The betrayal had cut too deep, and the revenge had been swift and ruthless. They had destroyed my life, and now I had returned the favor tenfold. As I drove off into the night, I felt no remorse, no guilt, only the satisfaction of a plan executed to perfection. The chapter was closed, the deception revealed, and we would never cross paths again. For the first time in a long while, I felt free.